right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to Valentin Consulting's YouTube guest speaker series. My name is Dr. Daisy Valentin, and I am the CEO of Valentin Consulting. And I'm so excited to invite you to this dynamic YouTube channel where we are hosting exclusive guest speakers since May of 2024. I can't believe it's been over a year that we have been dedicating this channel to providing high quality insights and discussions around all different types of professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations. And today is no different. We have a wonderful guest speaker. We are so excited to introduce you to everybody. Tyneeta, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being our guest speaker today. And we are so excited to hear about you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you are inspiring so many in your community.
Well, first, I just want to say I am honored to be here with you, spending this time. Thank you for having me. I'm Tyneeta Canonge. I am a retired educational administrator and current founder of We Consulting. And I have spent my career as an educator focusing on equity, community, and belonging. And I've translated that experience into my consulting firm. I help early and mid-career leaders level up their leadership with an equity lens through coaching, through consulting, through retreats, and through experiential conferences like the one that I host in my hometown, the Level Up Leadership Lab, New Orleans. So I'm living my best life as a founder, as a CEO, and I'm so excited to share a little bit about that because I want that for everyone.
That is so exciting, Tyneeta. I am super stoked because I know that, as we move around in our lives, we don't realize that we can have more potential. And it's so exciting to see how you're bringing that leadership style, that different diversity types of things into your community, in where your hometown and outside. So tell us where your hometown is.
So I am originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. It's in my heart. It's in everything that I do. I carry home with me, even though I lived in Dallas for 20 years and I'm currently a resident of Minneapolis.
I know she
I,
came to
yeah,
us. She came to
I
us.
lovingly,
I'm sorry,
I,
Louisiana.
I call it the North Pole.
Oh
And
yes, yes, we do
yes,
live in
yes,
we do
yes,
live in the North Pole.
I
Yeah.
jokingly
I
call it the North Pole.
I always wonder why. You're from Louisiana, you lived in Texas. Why Minnesota? Why?
Yeah, so I started my career as a high school English teacher and quickly was encouraged to pursue leadership. So I got a lot of support around being a principal, and eventually moved out of the public school space into the independent school space and into administration. So out of the classroom into administration in a role that at the time was called the director of diversity. And while in that role, I started, people see characteristics in you sometimes before you see those characteristics in yourself. And so again, just kept getting nudged for greater leadership. And at one point, I thought I wanted to be a head of school, which is what leaders in the independent school space who run, could be in elementary school, could be in middle school, or it could be pre-K through 12th grade. And I thought I wanted to run my own school. And so the opportunity came for me to move to Minneapolis to be mentored, to finish another degree, and just to gain the experience that I needed to launch into that head of school role. So Minneapolis was really attractive. I was working in a really well-renowned school environment and learned a lot. So that's what drew me to the North Pole.
Oh, wow. I think we both drew to the North Pole because of that, because I am here because of that too. We have so
Yeah.
much in common when it comes to that because it drew me to Minneapolis too for higher education.
Yes.
To pursue a position in higher education from the corporate world, right? Got out of corporate
Mhm.
world into higher education, and it just sparked things for us. I think by us educating and mentoring others, it sparks the opportunity for us to create our own consulting firms. And I think that's so amazing that you've created and built this based on that experience. And you can take it back, right? Like, you've done this, you came to Minneapolis, but you still, like you said, take it back to your roots. You bring back a
Absolutely.
you've done back to your roots, right? Back to your hometown. And I'm working on that. I don't know how you did that, but I'm working on that. I need to bring back some of little bit of me to my hometown because they need it.
Where are
As
you
well.
from?
I actually, it's kind of interesting because I'm from all over the place.
Okay.
My mom moved around a lot. We weren't military, but we moved around a lot. So I was born in Philly, raised in Chicago, lived in Florida, lived in Jersey, lived in Indiana. It was like that. But I really have a heart for Chicago and for Florida. You know,
Okay.
so now, I have kids in California, kid here, Minneapolis, and then my family lives in Florida. My husband's family lives in Florida. So yeah. So I'm still working on some logistics that I'm working with someone that I graduated with in school that told me, hey, I have an entertainment business and I want you to work with me. So I'm still working on that to get that. Hopefully by the end of this year, I'll be in Florida doing a speaking engagement with him um, out there. So in my
Well, that
hometown.
sounds
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Yes.
So I think that
Yes.
is great what you do. So now let's get in because this is all about you, not about me today. So I want to just, send you a couple of questions over because we talked about, like, what do we want to talk about? What does Tyneeta do? And you really hit the hit it on the nose when you talked about leadership is not sustainable without rest. So you tell us a little bit about what does the rested leader mean, and how does it really go into how you take care of yourself? And this is going to be good for many leaders out there across the country, across the US. It's not just you work just in one space, right? I want to make that
Right.
clear. You work with any leader, right? In the US or
Sure.
outside of the US, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I have clients from Singapore all the way to many states in the US. Yeah. So
Awesome.
international clients um, are typically in really high profile, high productivity positions. And any of us who have integrity and who clarified our vision and how we want to show up, like, we are really serious about the roles that we're in and the
Hmm.
work that we're doing. And at best, we're in alignment with our core values and the leadership roles that we're in. And because of that alignment, we typically choose those leadership roles that allow us to push into those core values. We take it very seriously. It's hard work for us. But the thing that's really important is for us to understand that we also have to take care of our actual hearts, right? The physicality of our bodies. And so for me, I talk a lot about the restorative leadership model. There are a lot of other leadership models that exist, right? You have transactional leadership, you have transformational leadership, you have servant leadership. But I like to work through those models and help people to understand how they relate to this idea of equity and restoration, sustainability. So if you think about the servant leaders are typically folks who give, right? And that probably is the most equitable model because we're looking deeply at the needs of people and trying to figure out how do we meet those needs, right?
Hmm.
But if we're not also shining that mirror back on ourselves and figuring out what we need to have a sustainable leadership practice, then we get burnt out. And that's where the restorative model comes in. So for me, the restorative model forces me to really think about my body and how my nervous system is reacting to my day-to-day engagements. How do I feel when I am racing out of the house in the morning because I haven't had enough sleep? I'm grabbing some coffee, I'm not eating breakfast, and I'm just going in and sitting at the desk and getting started.
Mm-hmm.
How does that impact my nervous system? How does that impact my nervous system if my first task is a meeting and I haven't taken the time to check in with myself? So that's what I mean when I talk about embodied leadership. So restorative leadership is also embodied leadership. That's always checking in. Are your muscles tense? Do you have your basic needs met? As leaders, we be really going hard in the paint. And a lot of times, if you're anything like me, very goal oriented. I do a task list every day and I want to scratch off as many of those things as possible. But I've had to learn to pause and slow down and have a morning routine that really allows me to be present with myself. Because guess what? I'm the most important person on the leadership team for me. We each are, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, so really thinking about how I'm treating my body, how I'm caring for my nervous system as it relates to the pace of my day. All of those things are really important. And we have to be literate about our nervous systems, our breath. Are our breaths short, or are we able to take long, deep breaths? Are we able, after a tense interaction, to relax our shoulders? And do we have an affirmation? Are there things that we can be doing, playing some music to kind of ground our nervous systems again? Like understanding when our nervous systems are activated and having some tools in your toolbox to be able to get back to a neutral place as much as possible throughout the course of the day. And taking the brief moments, 5 minutes, to actually do those practices is really important in a restorative leadership model. And the other thing that's important in restorative leadership is understanding the importance of not only your identity as a leader and how that's coming into play in the environment, but also the significance of the cultural significance of the people around you and how folks are
Mhm.
showing up based on their identities. And that has to do with communication, that has to do with our conflict styles. We're socialized around those ideas of communication and conflict from our families of origin, from our cultures of origin. Listen, I told you I was from New Orleans, and
Uh-huh.
we're very conflict oriented, direct communicators. And imagine me moving to the Midwest where everybody's like indirect communicators, completely conflict avoidant. That's important for folks to
It's
understand.
very
It's important.
important because you
Yeah.
need to know how to speak to, like it's kind of like when they
Yes.
say you got to know the different generations to know how to speak to them
Yes.
in this day and age,
Yes. Yes.
because and it's the same thing with the culture shock, right? It's the same thing.
Yes.
Like you got to
Yes.
know your community, you got to know how it works. I really
Absolutely.
love what you were saying because it's so funny that you say that because I listened to a Mel Robbins podcast the other day. I don't know if
Hmm.
you know Mel Robbins. Many people
Yeah.
probably know who she is. And
Sure.
one of the things that she said is kind of like exactly what you mentioned there. Like not exactly, but similar, where you were saying you got to know to find time. You got to know how to find time and carve it out. Like if it's 15 minutes, put a timer on. Like put a timer on to do this for 15 minutes, this for 15 minutes. Like you said, like it bring or like getting enough rest, but what are you doing, right? Like if you're getting enough
Hmm.
rest, how are you getting enough rest? And I realized that you're not getting enough rest because you were talking about running out the door. And
Yep.
many times I felt myself by you saying that that's what I was doing. I was running out the door, but I wasn't giving myself enough time in the morning to
Right.
do the things that were not income producing activities.
Yeah.
And then I was running and then I was not sleeping because what the rest of my day was taking up that time that I should have did in the
Sure.
morning, right?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about all this piece here, now I'm gonna throw another question at you
Sure.
because I
Yeah, bring
feel
it
that
on.
it needs to be heard. Is how does that model help you build healthy boundaries for your self-care for not only yourself, your team, and your community? Because we were just talking about culture shock, right? Moving from
Hmm.
one space to another, building this amazing, thing as a leader. How do you make those healthy boundaries? What are you bringing in, or what can you tell us how that helps with your team, yourself, and your community?
Yeah, I think especially, it's the leader's responsibility to model what healthy boundaries look like, right? So we all have had bosses who expect us to respond to a 10 p.m. email
Mm-hmm.
or a phone call. And that's not realistic. So I recently did a presentation at the University of Pennsylvania on this restorative leadership model. And a gentleman in the audience talked about being really afraid, knowing he was burnt out, knowing he was really on the edge, and taking the time to figure out, like, what do I need as far as work boundaries are concerned. And once he figured that out, the next step was to talk to his boss about it. So when he went to his boss, he was an assistant principal, I believe, and so he went to his boss, and he was terrified to say, "Hey, I work Monday through Friday. I even coach a little bit. I Here's what I need. I need Sundays without having to respond to emails. I have to reset and a list." And surprisingly, his boss said, "Okay," because he was a high producer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Highly productive. And she understood that he wasn't slacking, but this was going to be a positive part of their relationship, knowing that he was seen and heard and also cared about enough to be supported around the boundaries that he was asking for. So communicating your needs is really important. But so often we don't have those boundaries at work. We're doing work for other people. We are talking about personal issues that have nothing to do with work. We're not delegating. We are volunteering our time sometimes and saying yes to things that aren't even in our job description, aren't even in our roles, right? So all of those things are examples of unhealthy boundaries at work. Um, and healthy boundaries look like high communication. It looks like, hey, here are the things that I have to do with my family, and communicating that with your team or to your supervisors, and explaining that when people want to socialize and you have to kind of refill your tank, saying, I really want to be socializing with you. But right now, here's the thing that's really important. I really need rest. And not enough of us acknowledge that a lot of times we just are tired, too tired to
Too
go to
tired to
everything.
acknowledge it to people. Like
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes
But
I
that's
get like
modeling
that
too.
myself, and
Yeah,
we have to communicate it to our families too, right? Like not just our teams and our job, but to our families too, right? Like
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
think even ourselves within our own homes don't
Hmm.
realize we're still leaders in our homes.
Oh, absolutely. I talk about that. So I have a podcast called The Ordinary Leader. Ordinary Leaders is the name of the podcast. And I talk about how there's this misconception that you have to have some title to be a leader. Leading just means that you have a circle of influence and you positively impact the people in it, right? That you are able to leave a good mark, set a vision, follow through with that vision, and have people to want to follow you, to represent yourself in a way that people are attracted to your
Mhm.
vision and the execution of your vision, right? And so a lot of times we get so focused on that we don't understand that when we don't ask for help, we're denying people of the opportunity to develop skills, really important skills that they need. And that happens in our households, that happens. Think about your kids or your other family members, your spouses, who, if you ask them for help, they would be learning new skills and things would be so much smoother. So
Delegating,
imagine if
right?
delegating, yes. Everybody, teamwork makes the dream work. If
Yeah.
everybody understands their task, and they can build a skill around whatever needs care in the home, imagine. And that's your practice. And you're also, again, teaching them that this is what it means, because another part of restorative leadership is moving away from individuality to the collective. We are doing this together, right?
And
I am
how
not,
can we
yeah.
normalize a rest as a leader, right? And as a leadership value versus a reward. Because what happens with a lot of leaders, like including myself, I include myself in that. It's like I'm rewarded for this rest. Like I feel like it's a reward versus it being a value to me.
Well, I would go up one step further and say it's not even a value, it's a basic human need.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if you don't drink water, you're dehydrated. If you don't eat food, you're going to starve. If you don't rest, then it's a part of what we need to be alive. We have to rest. And so the fact that so many of us are anxious and completely disconnected from our bodies and agitated and depressed, a lot of those things have to do with the fact that we are overworked and we haven't rested enough. It's a spiritual piece as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we start
Absolutely.
talking about, yeah, when we start talking about this restorative leadership model, there is a spiritual component of it because we are human beings. We are not robots. And if we are able to acknowledge that, then we have to be connected to a higher power. And we have to understand that our divinity, look, even the prophets and the folks who are at the heads of all of the major religions, guess what? They rested. They
They
rested.
rested, they prayed
They
and
rested.
rested. They,
They did. So the
I
audacity of
noticed
us
that,
to feel like
I
we don't
noticed
need
that.
that.
I
Yeah,
noticed that when I'm reading, as a Christian myself or whoever's a believer, like you said, or in their religious beliefs, you notice that they stop and they rest. They take a
absolutely.
moment and pause and they dedicate a specific time. And society has made it where we shouldn't be resting, that we should be always be going, going, going. And even if you're a leader in your business, your own business, small business entrepreneurs, which women in business is growing as small business owners. And it's been in society that we have to continue to work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, and not have rest. And sometimes I hear what you're saying, and I feel like it's not great to not make time to at least take a day for yourself. You need to have a day for yourself. You need to have that mental break. But what are some of those tips that you can give? Very simple. We're almost running out of time, so I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to just tell us what are some
Mhm.
quick tips that you can remind, entrepreneurs, small business owners, especially, even higher power leaders. What is something, just few little tips that they can take away from you that they can use, that we can remember you by, and also how we can reach you, how anybody can reach you, right? Like I know how to reach you, and if you want to contact Tyneeta, make sure that you let me know, but she's going to give us her information as well. So if you want to reach out and you are one of these leaders that she's talking about, but give us 2 tips that are simple that people can do to just carve out that time.
Sure. I have a friend, and I spoke to my friend today, and she's like, Tanita, I know it's Mental Health Monday, but I wanted to call and ask you a question. And the question was about wanting to take a trip together, right? So, Mental Health Monday. And even if it's not Monday, you could have a mental health minute. You can have a whole day, or you can take it to a minute, but calendaring, right? That this is, I'm committed to practicing this self care, this restoration, acknowledging my humanity with a mental health minute, a mental health Monday, a mental health month, right? Whatever you get, and demonstrating that to the people you are leading or the people you are supporting in your business or even your clients. Blocking off the time where you are adamant about protecting that time and space. So that's the
Mhm.
first thing. Mental health minute, mental health Monday, whatever you can afford, but just really committing to a designated time to focus on your wellness. The second thing is sometimes I think we think too big. And so my recommendation is to start small. And I talk a lot about micro joy. Where can you find moments of micro joy? Now, after a tense conversation, I will put on a song. I will do a dance where I can have to shake my shoulders and just, again, get the tension out of my body. So, moments of micro joy, playing your favorite song and having a dance break. Um, Serving others, giving someone a hug, whatever it is, having some chocolates on your desk, your favorite candies, and just saying, hey, like I'm gonna take this moment as long as it takes for this chocolate to melt in my mouth. I'm gonna sit still and I'm gonna breathe deeply. Like we sometimes think
Just
it
enjoy
has to
it.
be a big deal. Yeah, just to really relish it and enjoy it. I had a professor who said, Tyneeta, you need to take an hour every day to read or walk. And I was like, man, you are crazy. And he said, start with 15 minutes. And I started with 15 minutes and I walked for 15 minutes in a garden near my job. And the next thing you know, like nothing caught on fire, nothing bad happened. So I was like, okay, let me try 20 minutes. And before you knew it, I was up to an hour because I had to have a mindset shift. I needed to shift my mindset. So, mental health moments, mental health Mondays, moments of micro joy, find something that brings joy to your heart. And then the final thing is shifting your mindset because rest is a basic human need. You don't deserve
Absolutely.
it, you have to have it. You have to have it, or else your practice, whatever your leadership practice is, whatever field you're in, is not sustainable. You're gonna burn out. So right now,
Absolutely.
right now, I am coming to you from a vacation, and I've been here for 5 days, and this is the first day that I've done half day of work. Now tomorrow I'll be back in town, and I will work really hard. But I have scheduled once a month little vacations where I can go and just breathe and enjoy and reset and gain a broader perspective and be happy.
That is amazing. I was just going to say, hey, she's tuning in. She did the honor of being here with us, being in her vacation spot, which is amazing. We're so blessed that you have the honor to be here, even though you're on vacation. I really love that. And also, if we need to reach you or anyone needs to reach you, I've put
Yeah.
her website in the comments so you can reach out, or you can also reach out to info@valentin.com and we can get the information to Tyneeta if you see this video. So make sure that you're liking and subscribing. I want to say thank you, Tyneeta, for being here because we are so blessed to have you here. So grateful to have you here as well through all this information. And I know there's so much more. We need to bring you back probably because there's so much she can teach us. But also, check her out. Like if you're in Louisiana, if you're in different states, she does travel to different states to do speaking engagements. So if you're looking for someone to come out there, be a keynote speaker, just reach out to Tyneeta. She can bring so much information. This was so grateful for me because I know that I've been going through many things like this and it's been very helpful. So I just want to say thank you. And if you are tuning in and you want to be a guest speaker or you want to know more about Valentin Consulting's YouTube guest speaker series, please come check us out, like and subscribe so you can continue to hear the wonderful guests that we have going on. We are so grateful that everyone is tuning in and continue to share, turn on those notifications, click that button below so that you can continue to learn more about what we have to offer you with entrepreneurs, professionals, and so much more coming soon. Thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Bye bye.
Bye.